welcome to our celebration of mysticism, all right, contemplation. Probably my favorite class of all to teach. So let's lay hold to the silence which envelops us, which invites us to go more deeply into our lives. Loving God, as we begin this new year of 2018, we give you thanks for inviting us each day to go more deeply into truth, into reality, into you, into ourselves, and into each other. Help us to make these journeys without fear, confident that we are already home. We just ask that you wake us up to realize it. So we pray in the name and the power of Jesus, your Son and our brother, who lives and reigns forever and ever.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, well, it's so good to be with y'all again. Haven't seen y'all since last year, you know. So let's just go around and introduce ourselves, make sure we're family here.
I'm still Darlene like I was last year.
Still Darlene, okay.
And I worship at the cathedral.
Cathedral, okay.
So, Rita?
Okay, Rita.
Steve Pratt.
Steve Pratt.
Stan Soltis.
Okay, Steve Soltis.
Marco Werman.
Warren.
Mary Masters.
Mary.
At the cathedral, but a Lutheran.
Nothing, all right.
Maggie Nicholson.
Maggie.
Nancy Nortier, St. Thomas.
Nancy, okay.
Cameron Versluis.
Cameron, okay.
Mary Ellen McQuaid.
Well, great. Okay. So I see some new faces that have not have been here before. Y'all two have not been here, have you?
We've not.
No, I didn't think I'd seen them. I think most
Is
of
this
you,
lemon?
Mark's been here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not this one.
Oh, no?
No, this is not this.
You're first of this series. Yeah, okay. Oh, good, thanks. This is Kelly. She's already on the ball here, passing out our yellow markers. Kelly's the one that gets all these pamphlets ready, all these programs, and I send her the PowerPoint, and she just develops it, all right? Good. Okay, mysticism. You just want to find out from you what interests you that you would come out on a night like this to look at mysticism. What is it? Me, really? Oh,
No,
gotta be
seriously.
something else.
No, seriously, because you, I've learned so much, and I don't fully understand mysticism. You know, I thought it was something. Well, we're all saints in progress, but for the really saintly, I guess, like.
Yeah.
So I want to, I want to learn more.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? Yes.
I just finished the 10-week course at St. Thomas, Bishop Barron's course,
Okay.
Catholicism, just loved it. And we
Okay.
talked a lot about prayer. And
Okay.
there were Catholics there, Credo Catholics, and there were 4 people that had just been baptized. And so we had some really good discussions about prayer. And the moderator said the same things, how deep in prayer do you really want to go? And I thought, that's an interesting topic. And then I saw you're offering
There
this,
you
so that's
go.
why I'm here.
There you go, all right.
Yeah.
Excuse me, did you say it was, what was the series? Bishop Barron
Bishop Barron.
on prayer? did you say?
Catholicism.
Catholicism.
Oh,
Catholicism.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
There was a hand and I interrupted.
This is just my version because I'm not a very formal person, but to me, it's where a person's interior being connects with the all in all kind of.
All right, so it's really about connection and unity, right? Great, all right, anybody else?
I was attracted with your word deep because I'm more of a surface person in my relationships, and what I do, I skirt out from one thing to the other.
Amen, all right.
Who would admit that?
Well, so for me, I'm interested in having a more vibrant prayer life. So the word deep also is like well, that sounds interesting, because sometimes I have trouble focusing on prayer. Not because it's boring. I don't feel like it's boring. It must not be boring, but I don't know how to unlock that place, if that makes sense, because I'm a very jumpy type of person, and
All right.
yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Anybody else? No?
As a catechist for the last 10 years, caught my attention in the sense of how to get deeper into understanding, because I work with 5th graders and 6th graders, and
Okay.
be able to help them develop their life in today's world with what they're exposed to without using words that they don't understand, that I can't explain.
Okay, all right. Well, one thing's for sure, if you want to learn something, teach it, okay? That's what I do. I learn so much through teaching things. I sign up for all these courses here and say, well, let's see, I want to learn more about this. I think I'll teach it. And so I do research and everything and put myself on the line. I've got a deadline, and you challenge yourself, all right? So, I like this, let's see if I can work this thing here. Okay. I love this story. This is from the Desert Fathers. Abbot Lot came to Abbot Joseph and said, Father, according as I'm able, I keep my little rule and my little fast, my prayer, meditation, and contemplative silence. And according as I'm able, I strive to cleanse my heart of thoughts. Now, what more should I do? The elder rose up in reply and stretched out his hands to heaven. His fingers became like 10 lamps of fire. He said, why not be totally changed into fire? This is the transformation that we're all called to. This transformation into fire, deep fire, not anything superficial, but something that deep that comes from our very being. Okay? And that's our challenge. Okay. Let's see. Now, just to clarify some terms. Basically, mysticism and contemplation, when you read them, they're sort of interchangeable. There's not really a lot of difference in the two. Mysticism comes from the Latin mysterium, mystery, contemplation. Within the temple, come within. Templation is a form of temple, so it's within the temple of your soul, going there, and it's really a paradigm shift. When you talk about prayer, you can either stay on the surface and learn a lot of things and memorize a lot of prayers, and those are all good, but they'll never be enough. The only thing that goes close to being enough is when you leave everything behind that you thought it was and go deeper into the unknown, into the mystery of it. And you go with this sense of abandonment, this sense of letting go. That's basically what contemplation is letting go. It's an art form of letting go. It's meeting reality. Rohr says that you can really substitute the word reality and you get the meaning of God. God is reality, okay? And what's the opposite of reality? Illusion, all right? And illusion is what keeps us separate. And the whole purpose of religion is unity. Jesus' statement, I think his mission statement is John 17, that all may be one. Unity, oneness, okay? So when you look at the 4 areas of, these are from Rohr's book, what the mystics know, the 7 paths to your deeper self. And it's chock full of really a lot of wonderful things. If you've not seen the book, I recommend it. Letting go of my judgments, my agenda, my tyrannical emotive life, my attachment to my positive or negative self-image. Would any of those four resonate with you in the sense of, wow, this is what I thought it would be? You know? In what way?
Well, I think that for me, the third one would connect home. I'm assuming your tyrannical emotive life would be all the cascading emotions that you experience on a day-to-day basis. So one day you're feeling on top of the world, the next day you're really frustrated about X and Y and Z. And so
Right.
it keeps you on this constant roller coaster where you're not transcending that. You're just living in this pinball machine getting bounced back and forth.
Yeah, that's right. And what's going to transform us from that, I think that jumping bean kind of existence, that just, it ties in with what Buddha says about impermanence. That's one of the principles of Buddhism, is impermanence. Nothing lasts. Think about it, huh? And everything changes, everything lasts. Every second, we're all getting older. Anybody feel like that? Yes. All right. Nobody's getting younger that I know of. All right. We like to think we do. Okay. All right. I don't know why this. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm going the other way. All right. You see, Kelly put a little changes in there for me. Letting go of my tendency to judge. Judge in the biblical sense means to separate. It's really the biblical definition of sin. Jesus' mission statement is John 17:21, that all may be one. And his theme is found in the metaphor of the vine and the branches, John 15. I'm the vine, you're the branches. We're connected. And that's what, oops, I pushed the wrong thing. Oh, let's see if we get it back. Yeah, there it is, okay. So, I'm convinced that the meaning behind the tree of life, in the Genesis story, there's two creation stories. The one has nothing to do about this tree of good and evil, okay, the eating the apple. That's not in that first creation story. There's two. And if God says that everything is good, everything is good, everything he created was good. And when he created humans, he said it was very good. So it's this positive creation story. But then you have chapter 2, and you get into a whole different scenario, okay? And then you come into the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. I really think it's a metaphor that refers to our tendency to judge and to separate. Why do we want to judge and separate? Why do you think we do, basically?
Pride.
Just go ahead.
Pride, just to make ourselves right.
Okay.
We don't have to be.
Another word for separate, in a sense, is distinguish. We like to distinguish. Is this good or is this bad? Is weather good or bad? Huh? You ever think about that? Would you? Anybody ask you, hey, you guys up in Michigan, you got good weather? What would you say?
Yeah, we have good weather.
You would?
You wanna go skating? We got great weather.
If you like cold and ice, a lot of people say, look at this, oh, it's a lousy day. No, it's not really at all. It's a snowy day and it's a cold day, but it's not lousy. See, when you're lousy, you put your judgment on it. Good, bad. If you just describe it, well, it's a certain temperature and there's certain snow and, okay, the sun's not shining. Those are all descriptions, and you're avoiding the judgment. Why do we like to judge it? As soon as you do, as soon as you say, what's a lousy day, then you feel bad. No. Gee, why am I having a lousy day? People in the Dominican Republic have 75 degrees. Why can't we, I called up today and talked to Irene here in the center. And I said, I hadn't talked to her since last year, So I said, "Oh, Irene, greetings." I said, "Greetings from the Dominican Republic. It's wonderful here." She paused for a moment and then she said, "Oh, well, good for you." And of course, she was expecting me to be here tonight, to teach. But I think as you translate that, she was saying, "What the hell's going on?"
She was in complete panic.
Of course, she covered it very well, I must say. I really led her down the primrose path there. But anyway, we enjoyed it. We had a good laugh out of it. And then I told her about my New Year's resolution. My New Year's resolution is within sometime between now and 5 years from now, I'm going to stop procrastinating. We'll see. Okay. So, all right. Now, it's our ego that wants to judge by means of comparing and competing in order to put itself apart, better, and on top. We even want to judge and evaluate our contemplative prayer practice. That's the tendency we all have. How was your prayer practice today? How was your contemplation? Well, it wasn't very good. My mind was all over the place, and I just can't get used to it. And the one thing you need to remember in contemplation is you never evaluate your prayer. That's the ego that wants to evaluate it and judge it. You want to accomplish, you want to put that as a notch on your gun. Well, I can contemplate. What, can you do that? I'm 3 steps ahead of you, right? That's the ego. It's such a losing game. And so as long as we don't let go of this judging, we can never realize the unity that is referred to in chapter 1 of Genesis, which says, all is seen as good. Okay. Rohr refers to this jumping being mind as calculative mind, always judging. And we're called to go beyond our contemplative mind in our contemplative mode, where we can be open to the divine ambush when God envelops us into a completely different way of seeing everything, which is another way of describing contemplation. Seeing, observing is very different from judging. What's the difference?
Difference between seeing and observing, is that what you're asking?
The difference between seeing and judging. Right?
Judging to put values on things?
No. Just like the example of looking outside and saying it's a lousy day, rather than observing it and saying, well, there's snow falling and it's 9 degrees or whatever it is, That's an observation. And unless we can make that distinction, we will have a tendency to evaluate and judge everything. Everybody, ourselves, God, the world, our political system, we'll be judging that all over the place, right? Okay. Now, any questions about letting go of judging? Did that ring any bells with you? Did that resonate with you at all?
Yeah.
Do not judge lest you be judged.
Okay. What do you think that means? Matthew 6, I think it is.
Yeah, to hold out hope for the other person that you're not judging them as much as their deeds, but that person you want to somehow lovingly bring along away from what they're doing, or trying not to compare yourself to them in the sense that I'm better than they are, but I can help them get away from what, if your knowledge base is what they're doing, and usually that's what we're judging, is if they're doing right or wrong,
Right.
or they're doing good or bad, or they're doing it correctly.
Right.
So typically that's where our judgment comes into play, is that we're trying to correct them based on the way we see it. But if we're seeing what they're doing is that they're trying to do something, they're just not going about it maybe the best way.
Or the way we want them to, right?
Right.
I see that a phrase from Matthew, judge and you judge not, you will not be judged, is meaning if I stop judging you, that means I'm not projecting onto you that you're judging me. And that's what we're most afraid of, for other people to judge us. So I'm not judging you, and therefore I don't presuppose that you're judging me. You see how one follows the other? It's called projection, you know? It's almost sort of like, I like chocolate, doesn't everybody like chocolate? You know, or whatever. I mean, it's like, we're interconnected there. So if I judge you, I'm just presupposing that you're judging me. And so it's a vicious circle, it never stops. Okay, so in other words, the challenge is to stop in somewhere. Yeah, Ron.
I may be really messed up, but I don't think that way. I think that I don't deserve it, that I'm inferior. And yet I have the right idea for fixing everybody. So my conversations are all, I'll look at a person and I say, well, I'm gonna say this to fix what problem they have.
Okay.
What's my problem?
Well, the ego wants to fix everything,
Okay.
control everything, okay? And
I enjoy being judged.
you do?
Yeah, I do.
I don't. I
I'm a
don't.
little bit of a
Constructive
masochist.
criticism.
What are you, a nut? Did that feel good?
My wife would agree with me. Sorry.
Oh, can I tell a story about that? What he just said? There was a case where there was a sadist and a masochist. And the masochist said to the sadist, hit me, please hit me. I need to be hit. And the sadist said, uh-uh.
All right, okay. There you go.
Touche.
Touche. Okay. All right, so the ego has very many different disguises in terms of trying to be in control, being on top. It's all based on fear, okay? So competing and comparing, we don't even have to be aware that we're doing it, we just do it. You know, this person is better than that, this one's better looking than that, this one's younger, this one's older, this one's smarter, this one's dumber. It's just, we've been groomed from, the very beginning to do that kind of practice. But it's all based on fear. If we're not convinced that we're held by this unconditionally loving God, why would we let go? Why would we not be afraid? If we're not convinced that we're held, then we've got to come up with our own security, right? Our own security systems. I've got to take care of myself if nobody else is taking care of me, right? And we can never provide the security we need. It's all an illusion. If we just get more. I just saw this very interesting movie called All the Money in the World. I think it was about the kidnapping of the grandson of John J. Paul Getty in Rome. And who was it? Who played the part? Christopher Plummer, right? He was excellent. And he came across as just someone that, wow, he just wanted more and more and more. And he had billions, but he wanted more. And just like one time they asked Rockefeller, he was the richest man in the world at the time. They said, Mr. Rockefeller, when do you think you'll have enough? And he stopped and he said, well, when I have just a little bit more. And it's like, it's never satisfied. This is the key, that it's an illusion. If nothing satisfies you, you know you're not there. It's not the truth. It's like dropping the rock in the well and listening for it to hit the bottom. That way you can find out how deep it is, right? And if it never hits the bottom, you never know how deep it is. And so it's a matter of trying to say, what is it that will meet all of my needs and all of my expectations? What will satisfy me? You ever think about that? What's going to satisfy? Cam, you said something about, well, if you could just calm your mind and it wouldn't be all over the place, you think you'd be satisfied then? No. What would it take?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
All right. All right. Anybody have an idea? What would it take for you to be completely happy?
To have a peak experience.
A peak experience.
Become like
Trouble.
Christ.
Pardon?
Become like Christ.
Well,
Except at the end.
there you go. That is a comparison. Even that's a comparison. Jesus even said, "You will do greater things than I." Right? So, I think it's for us to get in touch with the whole world of illusions. What's out there that's alluring me to think that if I just have that, I'll be okay. If I just get to this point or win the lottery, or I find someone that really loves me, and whatever it is. And it's like looking for a butterfly and trying to, you think you've got it, and oh, I've got it, and you open it, it's gone. It's like, it's the illusion, the impermanence. Okay. It's a recipe for anxiety. All right. All right. So, who's going to read this from me? My voice is going on. Okay, darling.
Is it just the first paragraph?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Okay. Letting go of my tyrannical emotive life. Perhaps one of the most frequently used words in our vocabulary is feelings. How are you feeling? The way we feel is something like a temperature gauge of what is going on within us. We could be feeling sad, angry, bored, anxious, etc. How many of us don't do things we know we are called to do because we just don't feel like it? And so, if we don't feel like going into deep prayer, we think we would be somewhat hypocritical if we do so. We so much tend to live in illusions.
Okay. Illusion, the great lie. Roy speaks of Satan as being the great, the one who is the deceiver. Satan is the one who is the deceiver. Wants to convince us of a lie. If you just get this, you'll be happy. If you just, do away with your enemy, you'll be safe. If we could just, get rid of Kim Jong-un, then we're going to have peace in the world, or whatever it is, And if it's not him, it's going to be someone else. So it's like, wait a minute, let's take another look, okay? Okay. Can't read the second paragraph, all right?
Our feelings can be somewhat tyrannical to the extent that we are subject to them. But in our depths, we know that we are so much more than our temporary feelings. The genuine call of God to go into deep prayer is a call to be in touch with that which is real, a call to be genuine, true to who we really are.
Okay. Does that word tyrannical seem too strong in terms of the feelings? No? Why not?
Well, they're like puppet strings. I mean, they make us do all kinds of things. Spend money on food and go places and call people and don't call people and switch jobs, and all these strange feelings inside of us make us do all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, anybody else want to comment on that? Does it ring true with you for you?
Feelings change a lot. Feelings change, so when we base our actions on them, it doesn't go well.
Right. For instance, in a marriage relationship, wow, this partner is just terrific. I'm going to be with this person all my life. They're the best thing since a six-pack, And
What kind?
So, but then all of a sudden, after a while, the newness wears off, you know. You're thinking, gee, what did I see in that person, you know? You know? I like this story, it's a true story, about the competition in London. It was a linguistic competition. Did I share that with you before? Okay, and so they had experts from all over the world came, and they were given this challenge to, in as few succinct words as possible, describe the difference between complete and finished. That was the challenge, all right? This one, you maybe have heard of him. This one man from Guyana won. He got a 5-minute standing ovation, plus a case of 20-year-old scotch. Okay. So, this is what he said. The difference between complete and finished. When you marry the right spouse, you're complete. When you marry the wrong spouse, you're finished. And when the right spouse finds you with the wrong spouse, you're completely finished. Anyway, it's an interesting concept, because a lot of times we'll think something's completed and something's finished without making a distinction. Okay, what completes us? Who can complete us? Who can finish us? You know, are we that vulnerable that we can be completed or finished by other people? Are we that subject to their own tyranny over us? Do we give our power away? That's another way of putting it. All right. Now, any of you familiar with the concept of the true self, false self? You know? I know a lot of you are, but the book Falling Upward really goes into that whole concept. That was written in, I think, was it 2011, or I think it was?
2011.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so, your false self is your role, title, and personal image that is largely a creation of your own mind and attachments. It must die in exact correlation to how much you want the real. You know, your false self. Rohr says that you want to see your false self, that's who you are in the casket. Okay? Your false self. It's not real. The true self is who you objectively are from the beginning, in the mind and heart of God. The face you had before you were born, as the Zen masters say. It's your substantial self, your absolute identity, which can be neither gained nor lost by any technique, group affiliation, morality, or formula whatsoever. This is the self that is not subject to the whim of feelings and change and all this kind of stuff. It's the solid part of you that is not movable. The surrendering of a false self, which we have usually taken for absolute identity, is merely a relative identity. It's the necessary suffering needed to find the pearl of great price that is always hidden inside this lovely but passing shell. Okay. Does that, for those who are not familiar with true self, false self, does that answer anything there? Does that say something to you?
It's kind of confusing to me because I always thought my false self was my true self. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Really? All right.
I'm just kidding.
You're living an illusion, Maggie. All right.
Imagine that.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, these concepts are so important because if we don't know who our true self is, we're going to be looking for someone else to complete us, to develop us, to make us happy. You know, watch your language, because whenever you use terms like, well, you make me so mad, you make me so happy, you are giving your power away to someone to change you in ways you may not want to be changed. Because if you give someone the power to make you happy, you're also giving them the power to make you angry and sad. Okay, it's just, where is your power? Where is your sense of self? we're gonna be going into a lot of that with the Facebook thing, you know. I just signed up today to teach a class presentation in this series, The Best Kept Secrets, on Facebook and our image and media and lack of true communication with one another. Let's see, I'm trying to think.
Was it
I
the cell
sent
phone
in-
one?
What?
The cell phone one?
Cell phone, yeah.
Yeah.
Cell phone and
Social media?
social media and Facebook, all that, right? Now I'm gonna do another one on mass killings. Why are we doing so many mass killings? We've had 1,500 something mass killings in 1,700 days. I mean, it's like, and just in the United States. There's statistics there that I just blew my mind. So we're gonna be looking at that. We're gonna be looking at, what else, Kelly, you remember?
No.
Yeah,
I looked at a lot of stuff today.
it was quite a few.
Are you, excuse me, Father, are you going to have that here?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's part of this
It's part of
series
this-
continuing.
This best kept secret thing, you know. Irene wanted me to send in some material for her, because she's making up these programs, right? Okay. So, I like this quote from Rohr. You can only miss something that you have searched for and partially experienced. In fact, you do not even search for it until you have already touched it. Let me read that again. That is pretty deep, right? Have you ever heard that before? You heard it, Mary? No? Okay.
I've heard something similar.
All right.
I mean, I'm not, not, that what I didn't have, I'm not saying in my childhood, what we didn't have, we didn't miss it. You know, we were happy, my parents did the best they could, and,
Right, yeah.
you know, and, so I mean, that's
well,
not the
this-
same.
This
That's
goes
just
to
deeper.
another dimension here.
This
This
is
says,
deeper, yeah.
you can only miss something that you've searched for and partially experienced it. Otherwise, there's nothing to miss, right? In fact, you do not even search for it until you have already touched it. It's this whole idea of experiencing. You know? If you've ever experienced God in a brief moment, just a glimpse in a sense, maybe through nature, through a sunset, whatever it is, you know, that glimpse awakens within you a hunger for more. And it's only fleeting, it doesn't last long. And I'm convinced that Meister Eckhart was right on when he said that there's an unborn self within us as well as a born self. Our born self was, a certain day and time in, history. But our unborn self is that part of it that never had a beginning. It's always been united to God. And so our sense of incompleteness, our sense of, wow, there's something missing in my life, that kind of thing, is the result of our unborn self having experienced this fullness and completeness with God, and now missing it because we're in our born self, we're living in the illusions and distractions. And so whenever we have these little glimpses of God, like from a deep friendship, some beautiful nature, a flock of birds landing on a lake, whatever it is that awakens within you this sense of the transcendent, right? This is kind of like something within you that reminds you of your home. It's kind of a homesickness. Okay? Now this is Meister Eckhart, way back in the Middle Ages, and you don't hear much about it. But to me, that resonated. That explains something, that why is it that nothing ever satisfies me? Well, St. Augustine put it very well with his quotation, which he said, our hearts were made for God, and they're going to be restless until they rest in God. Okay, that's that same concept, right? You ever experienced that sense of restlessness? Something's missing? Anybody? No?
Yes.
Really? does it feel like?
It's very uncomfortable, because we also don't quite know how to get there.
It's a sadness.
The sadness, huh? It's a sense of, I'm missing something and I don't know what it is, right? I think, oh, if I just, take this trip to Hawaii, then I will just, oh my gosh, my life's complete. And you get to Hawaii and you're there on the beach and somebody's got this loud music next to you and they're throwing sand around and it's, hey, this is not the paradise I thought I'd have. And it's like, wow, I paid all this money to go to Hawaii and I got this person next to me that has the boom box on 20 times higher than I like. What's going on with this? What's wrong with this picture? What would it take for us to pay attention to those little glimpses that we get? And they're silent, they're small, they're very transitory, but what if we would, when we do experience them, we kind of savor them, like like a nice piece of chocolate or whatever. You savor it in your mouth. You just don't even want to swallow. You just want to keep this savoring, right? But so often we want to move on to something else. It's the impermanence, yeah.
Where do sociopaths fit into something like that?
Well, a sociopath is, someone that has no sense of right or wrong, right?
That's the way I describe it, or no fear.
No fear, no sense of consequences. Okay, but that's really a psychological abnormality, a real sociopath is sick, okay? They need counseling, they need therapy, okay? I want to talk about everyday garden variety life, okay? We always wanted to go deeper, and for instance, people want to be liked on Facebook, and my sister some years ago said, oh, I want to get you on Facebook. Okay, fine, all right. I bet you I don't look at Facebook twice a year, it just doesn't turn me on, But so many people tell me, oh, I saw this on Facebook, and I saw that, and I saw this photo, and someone posted this, and I was if like, wow, it just made my day, And people want to go out and use their cell phones and take a picture of their dinner so they can post it on the Facebook. I mean, really? Is it true or not?
Yeah, I know people like that.
They want everybody to know I went to the movies, Well, who cares? Really?
They want you to know they're on the way to the movie.
Yeah.
Driving to the movie.
Get a life, huh? I mean, please. And a lot of it is just this need to be seen and recognized and noticed. There's this lack of identity that I really don't need you to like me on my thing. I really don't. I'm sorry. I'm really not sorry. But but it's like, let's wake up and look at it. Let's see what is really real. And so many of our people today of all ages, it's just like an extension of their arm, And you're talking with them and they're looking down, They've got it underneath the table and they're, how are you? And they're checking their Facebook. Excuse me, I'm here.
Well, they may be checking out a post about your classes, so we want them to continue to do that.
Nice try, Kelly. Put away the cell phone. All right. It does give a quick jolt of endorphins. And it lasts a second, but it doesn't last. So we venture into the desert of silence and listening prayer. We await the feel-good results. And if they're not forthcoming, we tend to seek these kinds of feelings elsewhere. Okay. All right. here we go, this, I was getting ahead of myself. Letting go of my positive or negative feelings. What is this desert we're talking about here? What is, the desert in spirituality is a metaphor. It's never, you know, the idea of Jesus going into the desert, there's no sense, I mean, we have no proof that Jesus actually went into a desert. Okay, it's a metaphor for what?
Absence.
Absence.
Absence of all the surroundings that we have. It was an absence where you're self-reliant on yourself and you see you for who you are. Didn't have the comforts of a home or friends or people around you. You were by yourself.
Right.
Gave you the way of looking back at yourself as a, how do I get to this point? That's the
Okay.
way I read it this morning.
All right.
And so that when Jesus went to the desert, or John went to the desert, he was one crying out from the desert, come back, it was because of all the things we had surrounded ourselves with that mean nothing, that once they're all gone, what do you have?
Right. It's the
yourself.
experience that all these things are not enough. It's going into nothingness. And that's what contemplation is. That's what mysticism is. Being willing to go into nothingness. No thingness. Nothing is no thing. No thingness. Going into the desert. Going into emptiness. Meister Eckhart wrote this great treatise on how to live without a why. What do you think that might be? How to live without a why? Does that seem totally preposterous?
Why is there air? Why am I here? Why is there air?
Right. I mean, we can go into a silent place, the desert, and have our mind just filled with, why? What's going on here? Why am I here? Why am I not somewhere else? Why does someone not like me? Why I'm not a millionaire by 22? You know, I mean, all these whys. What is that a sign of? Why do we want whys?
To be in control?
Yeah. Be on top. If I know, for instance, a lot of people, they, you know, in the mystery, a tragedy comes, and they come and say, well, you know what? If I just knew why my mother died, or my dad died, or my dog died, or whatever it is, you know. If I just knew why, I could deal with it. What is that? What's going on there? What does knowing why have to do with dealing with this tragedy?
If you know why, then you feel it was purposeful and justified, and it wasn't just a waste of your emotions and everyone's pain.
Okay. In other words, looking for meaning into this pain.
Sure.
So, I visited someone the other day at the nursing home, and they're in their 90s, and I said, would you like, a Catholic, I said, would you like for me to give you the anointing of the sick, you know? They get all upset. No, I'm not ready for that. You know, what do you mean? My family would be very upset if you even mention that. Don't even talk. Get out of here. Do you want me to pray for you? No, I don't need you to pray for me. I don't need all this magic. Okay. You know, I'm sorry I came, you know. But
What did you do then, Father?
I just,
Yes.
turned over his bed and walked out. No. I just fumbled around and said, gee, okay, well, if you ever need anything, let me know. And it's an awkward thing, of course, you know.
But did you pray for him?
No, he didn't want me to.
Okay, gotcha.
And I just think he associated any kind of prayer or any kind of anointing or whatever as a sign that he's going to die.
The fear.
And he's been told he needs to go into hospice, but he's in total denial. Okay? Well, that's sad. Someone that's over 90 years old and is still with it has not gone through enough wisdom teachings so that they recognize, okay, this is a natural part of life. Death is, you know, coming, right? It's like the old, been playing hide and seek, ready or not coming. You ever played that game? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, ready or not coming. Well, that's what death is, you know. It's ready or not. You're ready or not, it's coming, okay? I like to think of death as wanting. This is Julian of Norwich's term, which is, she coined it, you don't see it. Wanting. She made a verb out of the noun one. What does that mean? What does she mean by that, wanting?
Becoming one with God?
Becoming one, wanting. You know? And when you die, this is the becoming one with God. It's the passing through to the fuller life, to your real life, to your home that you're really created for, union with God. But if, as long as we're possessive of this moment, this life, I've got to hold on to this life and for everything I'm worth, then you're not ready for the next step, right? The next evolution of your development. So wanting. Okay.
I'm gonna,
Yeah, somebody got a question?
I have a quick comment on it, just kind of had a little aha. As I'm reading this, I'm going back over it. Where did we create this Facebook?
Yeah.
Think of it today, and we have a tendency to think of things in the present, but not how did we get here from that. And it went back to when my daughter was in college. She came home in 2004, said, Dad, you won't believe this great system they got. It's called Facebook. You have to be in college to get in it. And it was only designed for college kids to keep track of their classmates.
No kidding.
And in 2004 is where Facebook originated from, when Zuckerberg and his buddies were in college. It was for college students only to be in touch with each other, and so you could sign up for it depending on your college. And then it grew from there. Well, take it 13 years later, it's exploded, and it really should be called narcissistic book. Because it takes that one gene in us that we're all narcissistic at some point. And that's what it's done. I mean, I watch my friends at my age of 64, from my daughter, who now is 33, but at the time was 19, 20, telling me about Facebook. And then now where it's at, I'm like, wow. And it goes right to the almost compulsive where you have to get on it. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
I
And
think
it's, yeah, go ahead.
I think that's the issue, the compulsion.
Yeah.
A good story, my wife hasn't been on Facebook more than a month.
Yeah.
And the first thing she did, she posted that she was making springerly cookies. And we got I signed up for Facebook myself and had a friend in East Coast, haven't seen forever. We were very close at the seminary. And he wrote back and he lost his wife, and he said, wow, you got some more springerly. So we sent him, my wife sent him that, and we are now connected where we never were before, and we love it.
Okay,
So, but we're not addicted.
Yeah,
or
no, there are
Yeah.
advantages, right? The pros and cons, right? Okay, yeah.
I don't mean that it's good. I don't.
No, but I mean, we don't have to put a value on judgment on it. The fact is that it does at times connect and help to serve, you know, your feelings of connectedness, all right? And that's wonderful. There's no problem with it. It's just when it gets to the compulsion part, you know. you know Kim and Mary Ellen, you're in the younger age here, right? How do you feel about this?
So Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all of that, it's the closest thing available to a reputation management and reputation building tool. So if you are, because we all wonder, well, what do people think about me? What do I look like to other people? Do they care about me? Do they notice me? Well, it's the closest thing you can get to being able to craft that reputation and being able to measure that reputation with statistical data. So how many likes did this get, or how many, how many friends do I have, how many followers do I have, how does my personal brand compare to another personal brand? That's why it's compulsive, because it's a reputation management tool, and it's the closest thing you can get to seeing statistics on those questions you've always wondered in your head.
Does it fill the bill? Does it really manage your reputation?
Oh no. Well, to some extent it does, because you can not see someone for 3 years, and then get back together with them, and they have some sense of what you've been doing, and what you look like, and the kind of company you keep, and because they've seen a thing or two pop up on their news feed. But the problem is you'll never really know what they're thinking in there. It's just a guesstimation based on them clicking certain reaction buttons and messages and things. But it's the closest thing you're going to get.
And it's still not close enough?
No.
No, okay. But that's it. I'm thrilled to hear you say that. I've never really heard it. Have anybody else heard it described this way? I haven't. That was very interesting. That takes someone of your age. How old are you?
25.
25, see? I'm just 26 and I didn't. No, but once again, it's the need to be on top, to be in control. I want to know how many people like me and know me, and how many friends I have on Facebook, and somehow or another that's going to help me to control my destiny. I want to be in control.
I don't want to, I'm a couple years older than you are, but I have no interest in that. And I don't mean to, not to
it's
be
not a matter of
negative,
putting it down.
I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I have
So,
no
for instance, if you
desire.
were not on Facebook and not doing all these things, would you feel like your contemporaries would look upon you as someone who's out of it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Well, so I would potentially lose a lot of networking opportunities. I wouldn't get invited to events. That's how people invite other people to events, you know.
Oh, okay.
So if I got rid of Facebook, I would potentially, unless someone felt like picking up the phone and calling me, which would be a huge extra step. Because nobody has anyone's numbers anymore.
No.
Maybe I'm in their phone, maybe I'm not. And how do they get my phone number if they've lost it because they got a new phone? Well, they message me on Facebook. So it'd be a huge step out. Now younger kids are using Instagram, Snapchat, Tumblr.
I don't know what this is.
Yeah. So I'm
Tweets, right?
Twitter is used by older people too.
Old people are using,
Yeah.
old people are using Twitter.
I don't know how to use Twitter or Instagram, any of those. I really don't.
Yeah.
I tend to call people on the phone.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Or write them a letter or whatever. I mean, I use email, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I use email, but apparently that's not in anymore. Email's passe, right?
Well, email's for business now, and so is
business.
Facebook. I mean, Facebook. If you're just having fun, Instagram is where you're gonna go. But Facebook is both fun and business. So I message clients on Facebook. I have business groups on Facebook.
What,
Too
excuse
many old
me,
people and parents use Facebook now, so
Yeah.
kids have found another avenue.
what is Instagram? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Instagram is just for photos, just square photos and short videos.
Oh,
And actually Facebook bought Instagram because it was so successful, but that's where people post their food pictures and yeah.
what's
that's
food
Tumblr?
pictures, all
Excuse
right?
me, you mentioned
Yeah,
Tumblr.
so
What-
so Yep.
I thought that was the glass, you know.
Yeah. So
That's the other acronym.
okay, so
Sorry.
Tumblr is similar to Reddit, which is another one. But Tumblr is kind of a group of communities that don't necessarily know each other, but they may have similar interests. Like they might be into manga or anime, or they might be into Dungeons and Dragons, usually nerdy things, and they form interest groups and share content based
So they
on
tumble
those
together.
interest groups. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
It's amazing, it's like a whole new world, right? Now, I guess my main question would be, to what extent would any of these means of mass media be somewhat of deterrent to deep contemplation?
Big time.
Oh, entirely.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
definitely. Because you're just, like, what you put on Facebook is so shallow, like, it's just what you want other people to see, and it's just, like, your quick thoughts. It's, like, you're not gonna post, unless you're Cameron, you're not gonna post a, like, 3-page status on your thoughts of something. You're just gonna think of the most shallow thing you can, and
So superficial, right?
very.
Wow. What superficiality can do is create a lot of loneliness. You know, although I've got 6,000 friends on Facebook. Well, do you feel lonely? Yeah. Well, when you've got 6,000 friends, well, they're not really friends, you know. I think someone I read recently that used to say if you had 3 really good friends, you were just, really doing well. Now they're saying 2. You know, it's lessening, okay? So that's scary. But I'm interested in this because I'm convinced that unless we go deep into silence and into contemplation, we are never going to experience who we are and who God is. And we're just not going to find it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. It's just not going to be there. And where is it? It's in the experiencing of silence. And a lot of people just will do anything but be silent. Turn on the radio right away, turn on the TV, turn on, check your email. Busy, right? Busy.
It's so not personal.
There's no person, I mean, it's in person, it's not personal.
Well, I know, but there's something deep in that. It's like, almost we feel like I've just got to keep busy and keep moving, because it's hard to hit a moving target. You know, God really can't get at me if I'm moving and I'm constant and I'm busy and okay. And I think some people say, well, you know what happened to Abraham when he went into silence? God said, I want you to take your only son Isaac and kill him. Oh God, I'm not going to go into silence. Don't tell him what God's going to ask of me, right? So it's a fear. So if we just keep busy and have enough friends and go to enough parties and we'll be okay. But it's an illusion. So how do we face illusions? You go into them. You just face them head on, courageously, and you go into that silence and just let that silence heal you. It's called the divine therapy. But I was just listening to Jim Finley on the way over here on a tape, a DVD, all right. CD is in the car, DVD's on the TV, okay. I get that right.
You said tape, and that hasn't been around for.
I know, I'm giving myself away now, like. Well, at least it wasn't an 8-track.
There you go.
Oh, that would've been good. Yeah, I know. That was before my time. All right.
I'm a couple years old.
I know. I'm sure you are. But it said that John of the Cross, one of the great mystics in Spain, along with Teresa of Avila, said that the truer the spirituality, the fewer people will follow it.
Pure, did you say, Father?
The truer.
Oh, truer, excuse me.
The
Truer.
truer the spirituality, the fewer people will be attracted to it. And this is the thing when we're teaching mysticism and contemplation. You know, people, they're not aware of it. They haven't tried it. They haven't put their toes in the water. They haven't, they're just this fear of the unknown.
I fear for the young people like my grandkids who have music in their ears all day long and sometimes all night long.
Yeah.
And we're so out of touch by saying to them, you'll find God in silence, because their God has been in music almost their whole life. When my grandkids finally started going to church, we'd drive over the California mountains for 45 minutes, and they would have K-Love on, every song being a song about Jesus.
Yeah.
So they think of Jesus as this wonderful music as a kid. So how are they going to come to silence?
Well, one thing is real is that there are more suicides today, okay? I just saw where, I think since 2018, around 18,000 people in Michigan have committed suicide.
Since when?
The year 2000, I think.
Oh.
And a lot of it is overdose, opiates. I mean, and you read the obituaries, somebody 53 years old died unexpectedly. That's just kind of a code word a lot of times, you know, for, they kill themselves, you know. And what's going on? Why is this anxiety, this sadness, this anger? It's because they haven't been taught. And I say that we, as professional religious people, all right, we have basically failed in transmitting the greatest treasure, and that is this contemplation. You know, this contemplation and mysticism was very popular up until around the 16th century. So what happened in the 16th century? Huh?
Reformation.
Reformation, okay. The church at that point decided, Catholic Church, to put all their ammunition in refuting those who are, you know, questioning them. We've got to get all the scripture quotes, we've got to prove that we're right, and so they went in their head, okay, and to be on top. We've got to show everyone we know what we're talking about. So they went into their rational mind and put aside the greatest treasure, which is our contemplation tradition. And we're just now returning to it. And we can go back to the exact year. Well, first of all, it was prepared by Thomas Merton. He died in '68, okay. But then in just 3 years later, the Trappist in Massachusetts at
Yosemite?
pardon?
At Yosemite?
No, that's in Kentucky. St. Joseph's Abbey in Spencer, Massachusetts. That's where I studied contemplation, okay? And where I was first introduced to it. And they decided they would teach their tradition on a popular basis. And they started teaching centering prayer. So if you want to learn, have you heard of centering prayer?
You know,
Oh, wow, then I have a treasure for you.
Father, did they do that after the war? Because that was real popular after World War II, wasn't it?
Well, a lot of people went in monasteries after the World War II, you know. Not many people stayed, but they went in there. But this is something that a lot of young people were going to the Spencer, the monastery, saying, hey, we heard there's a Buddhist monastery around here. Could you tell us where it is? And the monks are saying, wow, Buddhists, we have our own contemplative tradition. Why do you want to go there? You're Christians, you're Catholics, and you're going there, and what about our own? So they said, we're going to develop this business of centering prayer. So,
Is that where centering prayer really came from?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. And I've been teaching it since 1977. No, that's when I learned it, okay?
Well, that's where you learned.
I learned it there, and I've been teaching it. So I became a certified presenter of centering prayer. So if you want to see my 3 classes on the Introduction to Centering Prayer, go to the www. Catholic Information Center, right? Is that, do we have that, where is it? Is it in your,
And it's on video on demand.
it's on the video on demand, so www. Catholic,
All spelled out.
all spelled out,
Really
it's a
long.
drag. Can't even write it quick enough. CatholicInformationCenter.org, and you go on the videos on demand,
Which is our YouTube channel.
yeah. And then you go to November of 2013, that's when I have my 3 classes on the Introduction to Centering Prayer. And I did it in Spanish a couple of months ago, so that now that's on video also.
Is anybody teaching it to kids, little kids?
There are some places they are,
How do they do
and
that?
I want to do that. I want to start. You know what they do is they have, if a kid is 5 years old, they'll do 5 minutes. If they're 6 years old, 6 minutes. They go according to their age. 10 years old, 10 minutes. There's a method to it, but it really helps settle kids down. They become more peaceful, less fighting and everything. It's called the divine therapy. Yeah.
And you just reminded me, that was another one of your best kept secrets was the anxiety.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, thank you. Now, one of my other April or May, whatever, it's going to be on garden variety anxiety. This vague sense of anxiety that we just feel, and we don't know what's the cause of it. We just feel anxious. Yeah,
More schools are using this now, where instead of sending them to detention,
yeah.
they send them into meditation.
Yoga.
And they're really having a lot of luck with it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Did you say, I'm sorry.
Holding on.
Did you say that centering prayer started there though? You learned it there. But did it start there, did you say?
It started.
It's called Mind Up.
Well, see, this is what they call centering prayer, but contemplation.
Well, I understand that, but like the
started
term
way
centering
long.
prayer came from.
They called it centering prayer. They didn't. That wasn't the very beginning term, and it developed into calling it centering prayer in St. Joseph's Trappist Abbey in Spencer, Massachusetts, in the early 70s.
I'm a counselor at Guiding Light Recovery, and we do centering prayer there, and it's our most popular class for the guys.
You're kidding?
Yeah, for the addicts, they love it.
Isn't that wonderful?
We have a woman who's trained at the Dominican Center who comes in and does it.
Yeah, they do. They do it here. Was it Tuesday nights? Was it?
Yes.
No, they have it here. It's
Alright.
powerful. I've been teaching it since 1977 in Spanish and English, and all over Boston, New York, all over. I don't know how people can live without it. I feel like I need to hold up my hand and say, my name is Joachim, I'm an addict. I'm an addict to centering prayer. I have 30 minutes in silence in the morning, as soon as I get up, 30 minutes before dinner, and if I don't do that, it's just something really missing. I'm off center. It's my rhythm. Wow. It's so important for me. Yeah.
So I'm a nurse, retired nurse, but one of our physicians always talked about the SEED, S-E-E-D. I forget what it stands for, but it's about, your fluids, your good nutrition, enough sleep, exercise, and centering every day. And she would teach all of her patients that, and she spoke.
Really?
Yeah, centering was a big part of it. Right in,
Oh wow. You talk about your sense of, all over the place, and distraction, and everything. Centering would make all the difference in the world for you. Money back guarantee.
Before I met you, I would always jump on something like that and say, but it has to have Jesus in it. And what you guys have taught me is that Christ is in your breath. And no matter who does the centering, there's God. So don't worry about it. Encourage it. I used to say, well, I got to make that Christian.
I know.
But you've helped. Thanks.
That's your background, Ron.
Yes, I am.
I too. I was in a monastery for 10 years. I was a monk in a monastery in Arkansas. And when I joined when I was, I think, 18 years old, and I left when I was 28. 3 years after I was ordained. I was ordained in 65. So I had most of these 10 years in silence, We had silence almost in all our meals. I think we were able to talk in the meals about 5 times a year. Christmas, Easter, whatever, the big feast. And, but it was silence and reading, and we'd have sign language for the meal, You wanted, somebody to pass the meat, you'd do like you're meeting someone, This would be tea, this would be water. Guess what this is?
No.
Milk!
Can I ask you something, just out of curiosity, when you could talk, what'd you say?
I'm saying, pass the butter. No, sometimes the monks would be on the other side of the table, they'd just be shoveling it in, and you couldn't get their attention to pass something. That's when you'd kick them out of the table.
Yeah.
No, it was a challenging time. We got up at 4:30 every morning, except one day a year, the day after Easter Monday, we got to sleep until 5:30 instead of 4:30. 10 years.
What time did you go to bed?
About 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you survive not talking for 10 years?
I had ulcers, but my body was resisting it. It was just not my vocation. I thank God every day I left the monastery. So anyway, they were good formative years, but I'm glad I'm not there anymore. My vocation, and I think a vocation of everybody, is to be a contemplative in the world. To be active, working with the poor, and I lead missions in the Dominican Republic. I've been doing it since 1990. I've gone down there over 50 times, and we build homes for the poor. We're down the last March, we built 34 homes since then, and repaired 8 others. We saw about 700 people in medical clinics, and we taught in public schools and taught hygiene and all that. So, but we also do centering prayer every morning in the mission. We get up early, we start at 6:30 and have 30 minutes of centering prayer, then we have breakfast, and then we go out and do our mission work. So you can do both. And I think one feeds on the other. You need this source of strength that you get in your centering prayer to go out and then interact with those that are hurting and pain.
Is it okay to sing during centering prayer?
Well, you can, but it's not centering prayer then. There are certain guidelines, and one of them is silence, okay? There are 2 kinds of prayer. There's what in Greek it's apophatic and cataphatic. Apo means without words, without thoughts, without trying to figure out things and reason and all that, without memory. That's centering prayer. And the cataphatic, cata means with, that's with words, like praying with the prayer book, praying the rosary, praying the mass. Those are all cataphatic. Those are all with words. But the deepest form of prayer is silence. And that's when you're not in control. And it's not a time to figure out your problems and all that. No, you do that another time. You're there to be vulnerable. You're there to be ready for the divine ambush. When God will sweep into you and transform you without your help at all. God doesn't need your help. God just needs your vulnerability and your openness and your readiness. God does all that. Otherwise, our ego would say, well, look what I did. I think I've told some of you this joke. I'll share it again, though. It's one of my favorites. It's bad theology. It's just a good joke. This guy dies and goes up to St. Peter, right? St. Peter says, well, what have you done to get into heaven, He says, I can't think of anything. Well, you better think of something if you want to get in here. He says, all right, well, I remember I was driving my car and I saw on the side of the road this motorcycle gang, and they had attacked this old woman. and stolen her purse and pushed her on the ground. And I saw it. And I got out of my car and I went over there. And I went up to the head of the motorcycle gang and I shook my fist in his face and I said, "Don't let me ever see you do that again." And to make my point, I kicked over his motorcycle in the mud. And St. Peter said, "Wow, that was very courageous of you. When did you do that?" He said, "About 2 minutes ago." So no good deed goes unpunished. But not good theology, because grace is all freely given. You can't earn it, deserve it, merit it, work for it. You just receive it. Isn't that right? Our Lutheran background there? It's grace. It's not good works. It's faith, right? Faith is relationship. So the Catholics have finally recapitulated and agreed that the Lutherans are right after 500 years.
I wish we could agree that you're right.
I know.
Them throwing darts.
I know. We have a long way to go. Well, there's not much we're gonna. Let me just point out that transformation is that what we need to go through in order to get beyond our false self into our real self, true self. It's the great change. This is what baptism calls us to, this great change from your false self to your true self. And generally transformation takes place when we're fighting and going against it. And in other words, when we're not in control. Times of great suffering, and times of great prayer and love. That's when you're transformed. Right? Just like when you work with your friends and where are you working?
Guiding Light Recovery.
The Guiding Light? Okay. You know that a lot of times people who have been through hell, they go through the crucible of transformation and they're more open to anything in regard to God's love because they have been at the bottom. Right? And so it's a matter of being transformed so that you realize that all this other stuff, this wealth, this popularity, this fame, this whatever, there's nothing there. It's vaporous. It's not real. And we all need to go through that because otherwise we'll end up like some politicians, I won't mention any names, who have to be in control of everything, right? And it's sad because I picture somebody that's in that state facing their death. Oh, wow. Can you imagine? Somebody who has not done their spiritual homework and they're on their deathbed? That's the saddest thing in the world, you know? So, I went through and did, you can read all this on your own. I was really intrigued with this third heaven of Paul. I had never heard that before. But in 2 Corinthians 12, Paul speaks, page 9, Paul speaks of being snatched up to the third heaven. Okay? To hear words which cannot be uttered, words which no one can speak. That's apathetic prayer. That's prayer without words. That's simmering prayer. It's beautiful. And he says, consciously or not, Rohr writes this, far too much organized religion has a vested interest in keeping you in the first or second heaven, where all can be put into proper language and deemed certain. This was supposed to be keeps you coming back to church, and it keeps us clergy in business. All right? Right or wrong, all right? In fact, one holy Jesuit predicts that Christianity will likely fight its own mystical tradition more than most religions fight theirs because it has so heavily invested itself in highly rational structures. Amen? All right. We want to, he says, we don't get there, you fall there. If you want to find God, then honor God within you, and you will always see God beyond you. For it is only God in you who knows where and how to look for God. And then I, this afternoon, went out on a limb and put down possible alternative mystical definitions of religious language. Mercy of God, grace, final judgment, then faith by justification, justification by faith. So, anyway, let me just end with this final concept. And this is where I think that the Spirit is working within me, and I'm not getting this from anyone else, because I haven't heard from anyone else. But I prefer personally not to think of God as being merciful. You may ask, well, why? That's a good question, all right? Mercy implies that someone has something over you, that you need mercy. You know, you need them to give you a pass or whatever it is. God has nothing holding us. God is nothing against us. So I don't see how we can refer to God as merciful, because we can be merciful to one another because we offend one another. But for an offense to take place, you need someone giving offense and someone taking offense. God doesn't take offense. God just loves us unconditionally. Deal with it, you know? I mean, that's basically what God says. You can't earn it, deserve it, merit it. You just receive it. The ego doesn't like that, because we think, well, I fight poverty, I work for a living, you know? I hold my own weight, I carry my own weight, and I'm looking for my just reward. There are no such things as rewards. Why? Because it's all gift. You didn't do anything. You can't even pronounce the name of God on your own. It's all gift. So there's no rewards, but there are also no punishments. God does not punish you. God reveals to you where you have ignored God's love and so forth. And he doesn't do this, shame on you. God just shows it to you, and you are transformed by unexplicable love. Or you can reject it. You have the free will to say, I cannot love someone that's loving. And that's hell. All right? But God will still go after you, woo you beyond your death. This is called universal restoration. And it's not condemned by the Catholic Church. It's not the primary teaching. The primary teaching, well, you die and that's it, right? No. I think God will come after us until God wins us over for all eternity. Someone asked Mother St. Teresa one time, is there a hell? He said, well, yeah, because the Inquisition was there and they were going to put her on the rack if she said wasn't. But she said, nobody is in there. So anyway, it's time to go, my friends. It was great to be with y'all, and we covered a lot of material. There's a lot more that could be talked about, but let's close, okay? Yeah, Kelly?
Little plug for your next talk, which is actually what you just talked about, freedom of choice, freedom of conscience, good and bad, good and evil.
Okay.
That's coming on Wednesday, February 7th.
The first Wednesday of February, the freedom of conscience, okay? And then there's something else that's in there that you...
Yes, we're having a little book study on Henry Nouwen.
Kathy Hoekstra,
Kathy Hoekstra, yes.
book discussion on January 9th and 23rd.
Which she just let me know, I didn't realize this, she actually met him on several occasions and had a chance to look at the manuscript of that Life Beloved
Oh,
before
really?
it was even gone into print, so.
Oh, great, yeah.
Pretty neat.
All right.
It's a great book.
Oh,
You
yeah.
should come to the book.
Oh, now it is terrific.
Yes.
And so is Ron Roheiser, those are two other good ones. So is Cynthia Bourgeau, she's my favorite now. She's the one that explains centering prayer better than anyone else. And if you want to Google her, it's Bourgeault, Cynthia. She is a Episcopal priest. got her PhD, and I don't have any idea here. She's smart. Her name is in that one of the presentation. One of those pages has got her name on it. So, she wrote, I'm listening now, The Wisdom Jesus is terrific. Saying that Jesus is a wisdom teacher than a priest or a savior. Okay. Loving God, thank you for being with us on this journey. Thank you for loving us so unconditionally. Help us to take a sunbath in your love every day, just to receive it and be grateful for it. And help this gratitude flow over into the lives of all that we're privileged to touch. Help us to be love as you are love. And give us a peaceful night and a safe trip home. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Enjoy. All right.